What is up, my imagination connoisseurs? Meyer Burnett coming at you from Pasadena, California. I figured between Christmas and New Year's, living in Hollywood, working in the entertainment business is kind of uh, it's a lonely proposition because everyone's gone. Although it's glorious on the highways. So I figured I would do these chats to tide everybody over before John Campea and I get back to doing the John Campea Show and the Weekly Hero. So hello to all of you who have joined this chat. And I wanted to first talk about, I want to talk about something I watched that dropped on Netflix, BIRDBOX. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen BIRDBOX, but it was based on a 2015 novel that I actually read by a guy named Josh Malerman. Josh Malerman. And, I liked it. And I thought the Netflix film is a beautifully produced, really well acted. I mean, John Malkevich and Sandra Bullock are in this movie. I wanted to watch it. I wanted to see what they did with the premise. And for the most part, I really liked it, but it has no third act. One of the things that is really starting to bother me, actually, it bothered me all the way back 20 years ago when I was at the Sitges Film Festival and I saw the movie Cube. If you haven't seen Cube, it is an incredible low-budget sci-fi horror thriller directed by Vincent Natale. It's brilliant in its conceit. I don't even want to tell you what it's about, but it's basically about people that are trapped in a room. That's all you need to know. But I noticed at the end of the film, there were a lot of unanswered questions that remain. And this has become sort of a trope now of modern television and movie storytelling where they don't have to explain exactly what was going on. They give you a premise and you watch the characters go through that premise. But then at the end of the movie, you're left wondering like, well, okay, but what was actually going on and how did it happen? And someone who's been reading genre literature and watching genre television and genre movies for literally since I was 3 years old, I don't like this kind of storytelling because it always feels to me that the author doesn't need to do all the work. And a lot of people are saying BIRDBOX is just a quiet place, but instead of using sound, it uses sight. But I don't think that's necessarily true. If anything, I think that A Quiet Place might have been inspired by this book instead. But all of it all sort of comes out of the zombie survival genre, I think. To me, one of my favorite films of all time is George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. The sequel he made to Night of the Living Dead that came out in the late 70s, actually came out in 78, but it was regionally released, so it was 79 for most of the rest of the world. It's still one of maybe my top 5 favorite movies of all time. It's a little hard to go back and watch it now after you see the weekly carnage and beautifully rendered effects assisted by CGI on The Walking Dead. But there was a time, kids, there was a time when Dawn of the Dead was the end-all, be-all. Those times have obviously moved on, as everything does. Anyway, BIRDBOX is really interesting. I love the fact that it is a literary adaptation, which is fantastic. As someone, I've never really delineated, in terms of my excitement, I've never delineated between movies, books, and TV shows. Like, I've always loved them. And I would get as excited about a book coming out as I would, say, Infinity War coming out. When Stephen King books were coming out when I was a kid, I would go to the bookstore and get them. I mean, I remember when, Firestarter came out. It came out, I think Firestarter, I want to say it came out in September of 1980. And I remember it had 2 different mass market covers. It had a white cover and a black cover. And I remember rushing to the store to buy Firestarter. And it was a conundrum, which cover to buy. Well, I bought the white cover. The black cover was cool, but there was something about the white. I don't know. Anyway, got really excited for those things. And I do get excited when something that I've either read or was aware of comes out. And what we're going to see today, after watching BIRDBOX, is sort of a palate cleanser, if you will, is the new, I don't know if you'd call it season of Black Mirror, which is one of my favorite things currently being produced. Now, I'll get back to the new season in a minute, but I want to talk about where Black Mirror came from and what exactly is a Black Mirror itself. Well, I wondered that when I first saw the national anthem, the very first episode of Black Mirror. I'm like, where did they get the title Black Mirror from? Well, this is the Black Mirror of the titular Black Mirror of Black Mirror. It is the screens that surround us and how our society, whether it's a computer screen, whether it's a video screen, whether it's our phones that we're carrying around with us everywhere we go, we are all surrounded, indeed ensorcelled by Black mirrors because they're everywhere. And Charlie Brooker, who created Black Mirror, was interesting. He wrote for a PC magazine. I think it was called PC Zone back in the UK. He's from the UK in the 90s. And he, even back then, he was sort of an agent provocateur. There's Gilbert in the background because Gilbert always has to be in the background barking or doing something. But so Charlie Brooker, he got in a lot of trouble for his one panel cartoons he used to write or used to create. And he would encourage people to write into the magazine, and he would go off on the worst letter writers and give them awards and things like that. Well, you know, he then sort of moved into television. And I first became aware of Charlie Brooker because he created a brilliant 5-episode miniseries for UK television called Dead Set. Now, this is I'd only heard about this, and you couldn't get it in the United States. So that is actually the first import DVD I bought off Amazon UK of Dead Set. Now, if you guys don't know what Dead Set is, I think it's even on Amazon. It's a 5-episode docudrama about the creation of a new season of Big Brother in the UK. The Big Brother show, like the people who live in the Big Brother house, began in the UK. And Dead Set is all about the new season of the Big Brother house. So the people in the Big Brother house are stuck there. So they don't know, they have no connection to the outside world. And what ends up happening is the zombie apocalypse happens. And it's played straight, even though the premise is inherently amusing. So I loved Dead Set. It was one of those things you hear about at a convention or somebody talks about it. You're like, where is this show? When can I see it? I finally, I was like, oh my God, I have to have it. And then I finally ordered it from Amazon UK when it was available on DVD. Now I loved it. I mean, who's this Charlie Brooker? Where did he come from? And now Black Mirror, which tonight it's been rumored. They just dropped a trailer 12 hours ago for the new season, which debuts tonight. And it's not even considered the 5th season of Black Mirror. They're touting it as a Black Mirror event, and it's called Bandersnatch. Now, from what I gather, this season or whatever this event is bears a somewhat of a similarity to Ready Player One. Bandersnatch is apparently a game of some kind, and there's a creator and a kid gets obsessed by it. But the real thing that everybody's been rumoring is that it's a choose your own adventure movie, that there has many different outcomes and you have to make decisions. There's no real confirmation of this yet, which I love. This is so Black Mirror that they're using social media to get everybody excited about Black Mirror. I can't wait. So, I can't, but I don't know. I love the mystery of not knowing. I love that we don't know everything, kind of like when Infinity War came out. So what's interesting about Black Mirror, I don't know if you guys, most people who are watching me now probably have watched all the episodes of Black Mirror, but Black Mirror was a show that originally was created by Charlie Brooker, and it was co-produced by him and a woman named Annabelle Jones. And it started in 2011, actually, with a three episode season, and it debuted. Let me check this to get it right. December 4th, 2011, with 3 episodes. The first 2 seasons were 3 episodes, and they were wildly different. The first episode was called The National Anthem, and if you haven't seen The National Anthem, this was the first episode of the series. It was the first episode I saw. It was mind-blowing. I couldn't believe what I was watching. And basically the whole show really is a reflection of how we're dealing with technology in the modern age. What is what is the world we live in? Why is it like this? And what does it all mean? Well, the national anthem was an astonishing bit of television, let me tell you. My jaw was on the floor for most of it, and at the end as well. And the next episode was called 15 Million Merits. And why I was excited about that was it was directed by Euros Lyn. And if you guys haven't seen Torchwood, Children of Earth, I'd seen Captain Jack and Doctor Who episodes, but I hadn't watched any Torchwood episodes. I hadn't seen the first 2 seasons. The first bit of Torchwood I ever saw was Children of Earth, which in my mind, that was all directed by Euros Lyn. And in my mind, Torchwood, Children of Earth is 5 of the finest televised hours of science fiction ever. Again, it was a show that I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe how much it was, like 24 with aliens and Captain Jack. And I loved it so very much. It was terrific. So the people they got to work on Black Mirror are first rate. And then there was a second season of Black Mirror that debuted on the 11th of February in 2013 with another 3 episodes. And by the way, the third episode of the first season of Black Mirror was called The Entire History of You. And I believe, I don't know if it was Sean Penn, some big celebrity actually bought it to develop it as a feature film. I'm not sure. I don't remember who that is exactly. The second episode, or the second season of Black Mirror had Be Right Back, White Bear, and the Waldo Moment. It wasn't, to me, as interesting as the first season. But what's really crazy about Black Mirror is how prophetic it's become. If you're following what's going on, I don't know what, somebody apparently is really bothering my dog. So Gilbert's out there barking. If you're following what's been going on for real in China, people are now being judged by whether they're good or bad people based on their social media profiles. And if you're not part of this societal fabric that they want, your travel is restricted. You can't get on an international flight or even a domestic flight. I mean, it's crazy. Right out of a Black Mirror episode. Really right out of a Black Mirror episode. Really, really crazy stuff. But it's for real. So Black Mirror has become very, very prophetic. So in 2014, December 16th, they did one Christmas special. So it's not like we've been getting a lot of Black Mirror. There were 7 episodes of Black Mirror total before Netflix. The show is very expensive to produce. So I believe it was Britain's Channel 4 said, look, if you want to do more, we want you to do more. We have to find a co-production deal. So they partnered up with Netflix. They got some of that Netflix cheddar, and they brought in Netflix as a co-producer of the show, and then Netflix would be the worldwide distributor of Black Mirror. And their first season, the third season of Black Mirror, debuted on the 21st of October, 2016. The 4th season debuted on the 29th of December in 2017, and they had 6 episodes each. Now, I think the sort of hit and miss, the 6 episodes, some of them were much better than others. I think the last season, the 4th season, had an episode called San Junipero. Unbelievable piece of television, piece of science fiction television, piece of inclusion, representation. It's just a great episode, science fiction episode of TV. And I don't know, Gilbert's still barking. He barks at everything, but he likes everybody and all of the dogs. So I'm really, really excited about what they're doing with Bandersnatch. I don't know if you guys have watched like the Minecraft movie. Look, I would never watch this, but there was the Minecraft movie that was on Netflix, and they used a choose your own adventure mode that I read up on, and apparently it was pretty good. Like, it was pretty well done. It worked really well. So the idea that Black Mirror has done a choose your own adventure, a series, or whatever it is, whatever they're calling it, event, it's a Black Mirror event, is very exciting to me. I mean, I love it when people are pushing the bounds of entertainment, and one of my favorite shows that I think has some of the greatest writing ever on TV. It's really cool to see Netflix. Here he comes. There he is. He's back home, not barking anymore. Maybe that was actually my Star Wars archives from Toshin Books arriving, because I didn't get it before Christmas. That was my big Christmas gift. I'm a fiend for Toshin Books. Toshin's the publishing company. I have the James Bond archive, the Stanley Kubrick archive, the 2001 book. They did the expensive version. And the Star Wars archive, can't wait to get it. It's supposed to be here today. Anyway, so this idea of a choose your own adventure thing, and the fact that it's tied into, it looks like a classic computer game from the 80s. And then as soon as I was in a whole, not that I wasn't in already, but here's what I really loved. You might see behind me this. This is a ridiculously expensive box set of vinyl and even a cassette tape that came out, I don't know, 4 years ago, of Frankie Goes to Hollywood's first album, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, which of course featured the wildly successful UK 12-inch single, Relax. Relax was first a 12-inch single, and then it was released. Now, I'm a fiend for Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I love Frankie Goes to Hollywood. They only put out 2 albums. There's remix albums, and they've never really gone out of the public consciousness, but there was Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, and their second album, Liverpool, which wasn't nearly as good, although there's some really cool stuff on that album. And these were released by Trevor Horn's record label, ZTT, Zang Tum Tum. They also put out like Art of Noise and a band called The Art. They're great. I bought anything that ZTT put out. They're great. There's even now compilations you can get of the ZTT 12 inches, and they were big. Remixes were big. The production value on the Trevor Horn produced 12-inch remixes, any of the things that he produced, were amazing. So in the trailer for the new Black Mirror, as soon as they played Relax, I was in. You know, the needle hits the vinyl and boom. I just love that. Now, what I find really interesting, like with Ready Player One, like with Deadly Class, Rick Remender's Deadly Class, the pilot, you can now see online, and the series drops on the 15th of January. But there's all of this 80s nostalgia. I mean, I lived through this stuff, so it's not nostalgia for me. And 80s pop culture was this incredible confluence of whether it's emerging computer technology, whether it was incredible pop music, it was amazing movie classics, and it all worked together in this melange of like the Spice Melange. Dune came out in 1984. But it was a great time to be alive. And it's no wonder that the creators, the people that lived through that era, such as myself, have grown up to embrace that era and have incorporated it back into their work. I find it really interesting that Deadly Class takes place in the 80s. This apparently takes place in the 80s. Who knows? With Black Mirror, it could all be a virtual reality construct on the thumbnail of some alien being. I have no idea. I can't wait. I know it drops at midnight, which sucks because every time they do that, that means I'm going to stay up and watch all that shit, because I'm not one of those people that's like, I'll get up in the morning. I'm like, I'll just get a taste, and my feet will come in. It never works. That's what happened to me with Children of Earth. I bought Children of Earth. I put it in. I'm like, yeah, man, I'll just watch an episode. No, I stayed up. I started like at midnight. I watch it till 5 in the morning, or 6 in the morning, whatever. And when it was over, I just went to work, and I felt good all day. Same thing happened when I watched True Detective season 1. I didn't see it was on originally, but I bought the discs, and I had to go to work. It was like 8 episodes, so I couldn't get through the whole thing. But I'm like a zombified, walked into work. I love True Detective season 1 so much. Season 2, not so much, but there's good stuff to like. So I'm really excited about this, people. Now I'm curious, what do you guys all think of Black Mirror? Do you like it? Are you fans of anthology television? All the way back, we talked about Twilight Zone and Outer Limits yesterday a bit, which I grew up loving. The Amicus, Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, Tales from the Crypt, any of the Creep Show. Somebody said, why didn't you talk about the Creep Show Shout Factory disc that came out, the collector's edition? Well, I haven't got to it yet. I will. There's only so much comes with everything is coming at a deluge these days, so it's hard to keep up with that stuff. And I'm interested in so many different things. I mean, if I was independently wealthy, I'd be able to cover all of this, but I probably shouldn't, because I'm closer to death than I've ever been. So collecting stuff, even though as much as I love to do it, one day I'm going to die, and someone's going to be like, what is all this crap? Like, what was this thing with action figures, and why does he have a fetishistic attachment to Frankie Goes to Hollywood vinyl? I don't know. I don't know if I can explain it, but it's just everything that I'm interested in. There's so many different spokes to my wheel that it's tough. Anyway, I figured I'd cut back up, and that was basically what I wanted to say. That Bandersnatch, Black Mirror's Bandersnatch tonight, deliriously, as I say, deliriously excited for it. And I'm gonna go back up to. Wait, I just see Victor Acosta says Children of Earth was okay, but the original BBC series was much better. I disagree with that entirely. I thought I finally did go back. I bought the Torchwood series and I bought everything and watched. I thought the Torchwood series was wildly uneven, whereas the great thing to me about Children of Earth was the dire threat, and it just got worse and worse and worse. I thought it was incredibly intriguing, very, very smart television. Gilbert, please. Gilbert, I'm trying to have a conversation here, buddy. Love that dog. He's the best. Benjamin Workman says, hello from Ben and Vanessa from Dallas, Texas. Hello, Ben and Vanessa. You know, I've only been to Dallas, Texas once, but I was there for the USA Film Festival where I showed my movie Free Enterprise. And the coolest thing happened to me in Dallas, Texas. I got to tell you about this. So we check in at this hotel, right? And you know, the festival had put us up there, and we check in, and there was a really, Texas blonde beauty behind the counter. And Gilbert doesn't like when I'm not paying attention to him. So this Texas blonde beauty is like, hi, welcome to Texas. How y'all doing? And we're like, great. And she's like, you guys like movies? And she didn't know what we were doing. She didn't know. And we're like, yes, we love movies. She's like, right there next door, they made that science fiction movie, Logan's Run, at the Apparel Mart. I was like, no way. We were there to show Free Enterprise. There's a scene in Free Enterprise with a Logan's Run dream sequence, and Mark Altman and I couldn't get over there fast enough. It's not even open to the public, or it wasn't. They blew it up, kind of like what happened to the Statue of Liberty at the end of Planet of the Apes, or before Planet of the Apes, but until Charlton Heston realized. So the Apparel Mart's not there anymore. But when I went to Dallas for the first time, I got to go see that. Gilbert is barking at, by the way, migrating birds, which he's never seen before. They've been migrating lately, and they fly right over our house. He doesn't yet know he can't get to them. So Victor Acosta says, not a big zombie lover, and the genre has been overdone to death on TV, movies, and video games. Victor, I'm right there with you, buddy. I loved zombies, and now it has been, I've read umpteen zombie novels and comic books, and zombies are to my mind, played out. But that doesn't ever interfere with my joy of watching the original Dawn of the Dead. Ron Hall says he was traumatized when he first saw Dawn of the Dead. You should have been. Yes, you should have been. It was traumatizing. Reptar King says, I love the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. The intro and the ending credits are so good. You know what, dude? I'm assuming Reptar King is a dude because he's a king, right? I was so vehemently opposed to the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead. I was so angry that they were remaking it. And I went in, look, I had to go see it. I wasn't going to be one of those, you raped my childhood. No, you didn't. I wasn't going to be one of those people. So I went and sat there, and I go to look, even if I'm vehemently opposed to anything, like I went and saw Into Darkness, Star Trek Into Darkness, even though I hated Star Trek 09, which I'll get into later, not in this broadcast. I went in with an open mind. I wanted to like it. I came out hating it more than I hated Star Trek 09, but I went in wanting to like it. And so it was the same for me when I went and saw Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. I'm like, there's no way that this movie is going to be any good. I loved it. Now, do I love it as much as the original Dawn of the Dead? No. But like you're talking about, when the man comes to town, the opening credits, the Johnny Cash song, the whole scene, when it was so great. And you got to get the extended version. There's a great cameo, the WGON helicopter that you can see. I digress. Wake me up when we get there, says Huck, says Gilbert is Chewbacca to Robert's Han. I like that. But you'll be able to see both Gilbert and I in the upcoming video game, Space Rob, The Adventures of Space Rob. Space Rob. Gilbert looks great in a spacesuit, let me tell you. Let's see. Wake Me Up When We Get There says Shaun of the Dead is still my most favorite zombie theme movie. You know what I love about Shaun of the Dead? Shaun of the Dead absolutely works as a Dawn of the Dead sequel. There's no reason to assume that Shaun of the Dead does not take place in the same world as Dawn of the Dead, any of the Romero films. I think Walking Dead does too. Walking Dead sort of it's all part of the same continuity, which is why I kind of still like watching all that stuff. Although I have to say Walking Dead is getting a little tiresome. Victor Acosta, asks, have you seen Travelers on Netflix? Very interesting time travel. Yes, I talked about that the other day. I love Travelers. The third season, I just finished that third season. I love the end of the third season. I thought it was better than the second season. What I like about Travelers, if you haven't seen it, it's again another show that was produced in Canada that Netflix that now took on, and they own it. They're producing it. They produced the third season, and it's a great show. I really enjoy it. And Eric McCormack, who I directed in Free Enterprise, is in it. He's also a producer on it, and he directed the first episode of the third season, which is pretty cool. I really like that show. Check it out. It's not as histrionic as some other time travel shows are. It's sort of quiet and it's really character based, and it's low. I'd call it low key, and no one really ever talks about it. What's eating Gilbert dog? Yes, I don't know. Gilbert is when I don't pay attention to him, he doesn't like it. Victor says Netflix spends money like it's going out of style. It's crazy. Yes. Victor asks, have I seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse yet? No, I have not. I keep getting thwarted by family, but I'm hoping to do it later today when I finish. I'm working on this. I'm taking a break right now. I'm working on, of course, editing the feature film Tango Shalom, which I'm also a producer on. I've been dropping in visual effects and rejiggering some sound effects to go with it. Robert Kessler says Creepshow 1 is one of my favorite horror movies ever. I got the collector's edition for Christmas. Any thoughts on the Shyamalan Tales from the Crypt reboot? The Shyamalan Tales from the Crypt reboot is essentially dead. It was announced that it's dead last week, which is unfortunate, and it's all about a rights issue. It's too bad. I was with the Crypt Keeper himself at a dinner the other day, and he was hoping it would go, and it's not going to go. Man Cave Review says, how is there only 60 people here? This is the Burnettwork, for the love of God. Well, it's a holiday weekend, and it's in the middle of the day, and it's not like I promote these live broadcasts. I go on like this one. I got on like 15 minutes before I did and was like, hey, I'm going to go live, and I wanted to talk about Bandersnatch and Black Mirror because I'm so, excited for it. So it's easy for me to come on and do these chats. But, what I'm looking to do is have more of these chats have a certain specific subject matter, so people can come in and we can talk about a specific thing and what you guys think and how you guys feel. And if you want me to talk about something or a specific, whether it's a graphic novel or a movie or a TV show or whatever, or a toy or whatever, it'd be cool for these chats to come on and talk about what you guys want to talk about, because that would be cool. Silent Thriller says the Walking Dead comic is way better than the show. I totally agree with you. I really like the comic, and the show is sort of, Here's my problem with the zombie genre. If zombies took over the world, the most precious resource that exists would be life itself, human life. So the idea that all these survivors are raging assholes and the baser parts of human nature are always on display, that makes for good drama. But after a while, it gets a little boring. And also, how many seasons are going to go by before zombies start to deteriorate and just fall apart? You could outlive the zombie apocalypse. If you guys haven't read Max Brooks's amazing book, World War Z, the movie's nothing like the book. Nothing at all. The book is actually a documentary look at the zombie war. And it's great. And if you guys, I never recommend books on tape. I understand that people love books on tape, but I'm a big fan of reading, and I think reading is fundamental. It's important. But the book on tape for World War Z is so good because I grew up listening to radio dramas. One of my favorite things, in addition to Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits and Star Trek when I was a kid, was the CBS Radio Mystery Theater that was hosted by E.G. Marshall. And it would start with this just terrifying creaking door, and the sound effects were great. And they even used, because it was a CBS Radio Mystery Theater, they were able to use all the music from the Twilight Zone TV show. So all the different Bernard Herrmann, all the great composers for the Twilight Zone were used as part of the CBS Radio Mystery Theater. And, oh man, it was so good. And I think I knew that even as a little kid when I started listening to it like at 5 or 6 or 7, because I'd go to bed. It was when they finally moved my bedtime from 9 to 10. I don't know if you guys had that. That was a huge rite of passage for me. But at 10:07 after the news was when the CBS Radio Mystery Theater came on. And I was a fiend for that. So as soon as I was always, my mom's like, you're like running to bed. I'm like, yeah, there's a new CBS radio. It was the best thing ever. I don't know. That's total digression, but maybe that's where I love my love of Black Mirror and anthology stories. I also have hundreds of science fiction and horror short story collections, which I also love. And I've got hundreds of them. And whenever I see one, best horror stories of the year, anything like Ellen Datlow edited or something, Stephen Jones, great stuff. Robert Kessler asks, what's my favorite Black Mirror episode? His is White Bear. You know, that's a good question. I have to say San Junipero is probably one of my favorites, but I really loved Hated in the Nation, which was the last episode of, was it for season 4? I think it was the last episode of season 4. Hated in the Nation is totally a pilot for what could be a new X-Files-esque TV show. Benedict Wong is in it. It's 90 minutes. It's a feature. It's a movie. I would have paid $20 to go see it in a theater. I loved that episode. Let's see. I like Black Museum. The USS Callister. Come on. You know, as a Star Trek fan, amazing. Oh, Hated in the Nation was actually series 3, third season. So I apologize. And I like Nosedive a lot, that Joe Wright directed. I thought that was pretty good. Arthur Morgan, Zombie Flesh Eaters, tacky, but still one of the best old school style zombie movies. Yes, Zombie Flesh Eaters. Are you talking about Lucio Fulci's Zombie? Which Zombie, it was very interesting. In Italy, Dawn of the Dead was released as Zombie. And then Lucio Fulci made a movie called Zombie 2. So they were trying to capitalize on the success, making people think it was a Dawn of the Dead sequel, even though it's not. What's really interesting about Zombie is Blue Underground just released a 3-disc restored Blu-ray version, which I have yet to get. They put out that in Maniac. Bill Lustig did. His company is Blue Underground. Now, I've bought those movies. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've bought those films. I keep buying them. Vesna says, what's my opinion on the Stargate series? I'm going to admit something to you. I've watched all of one episode of Stargate. You know, it was one of those things where when it started to come out, I really liked the movie. And when they started to do the TV show, I don't know why I never got into it. And a lot of people love Stargate. And I just didn't watch the show. It was one of those things that passed me by. But what's cool is one day I'm going to go back and rediscover it. I'm going to rewatch the whole thing. And Man Cave Reviews, I have never seen or heard your opinion on the Klingons from Discovery. Please share. Well, Collider, if you go back and you look at the Collider video channel, maybe they pulled them. But I was doing with Jason Inman and Ashley V. Robinson, we did a couple of Discovery review episodes. I don't know if we addressed the Klingons. I'm not a big fan of much of Discovery. I hope it gets better. Really didn't like what they did with the Klingons. I thought a lot of it was all ill-conceived and frankly wrong. But that's all right. You know, it's a different interpretation. I didn't buy it. I don't consider Discovery canonical. In my head canon, Discovery is not canonical at all. There's nothing canonical in Discovery in my mind that goes with the 40 years of Star Trek I loved before they put out the 2009 movie. That might not be the most popular opinion, but that's kind of how I feel. Kadir Hussein. Hi, Kadir. Hi, Rob from the UK. Love your shows. What do you expect from the Picard series? Well, that's a good question, Kadir. I'm really excited for the Picard series. As many of you know, I did all these documentaries that are on the Blu-rays for Star Trek The Next Generation. I did like 50 hours with Roger Lay Jr. and I. We produced 50 hours of documentaries, and I interviewed the entire cast multiple times. I sat down with Patrick Stewart for a series of many very long interviews. And he basically says, it's in the documentary, you know, you could go back and revisit. He says, you know, if there was something that was presented to me that was good, who's to say I wouldn't go back, but why not let it alone? However, I would love to see a Picard series because, first of all, if they did it, if it was canonical, my problem with modern Star Trek is the people that are there. Kirsten Beyer, who's on the show, is a great Star Trek novelist. She's one of the writing staff. I hope she's still on the writing staff. I've heard it was her idea to perhaps pursue a Picard series, and her novels prove how much of a Star Trek sweaty she is. She's a complete Star Trek fanatic. But the people that are writing the new Star Trek show are not particularly Star Trek fans per se. So I guess they feel unencumbered by canon, but they also seem unencumbered by the rich legacy and history of the show. What made Star Trek interesting is the historical aspects of it. And they go back and the fact that they just are retroactively changing things that we already know, like, okay, let's bring in Spock. Okay, let's bring in Captain Pike. Let's just do this stuff, because one of the great things about modern Star Trek, when from the Next Generation to Deep Space Nine to Voyager to Enterprise, whatever you think of those shows, at least they were expanding on the mythology. They weren't going back and showing things that we already knew. And when they did bring characters back, like Sarek in the third season episode Sarek, they brought back Mark Leonard. He was the actual Sarek. So in my experience of Star Trek, when they would do things like that, it just reiterated the reality of the universe in my mind. And so when they go back and they decide to recast, they had Ben Cross, who wasn't a bad Sarek in Star Trek 09, but it's like, in my mind, okay, why go back and show us that character again? I know if you're going to show Spock, you kind of have to, but it's sort of annoying, because I grew up my life, literally my entire life up to a period of time for 40 years or whatever, had these characters. How many times in pop culture history do you see characters grow old and then die? And then they kind of bring them back. That's what's so weird, is they're not charting new ground. And they tried to with Discovery, which was very, very hit and miss, mostly miss for me. But they figure Star Trek is only Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and if it's not that, it's Captain Pike and it's young Spock, or what? I don't know. That's a whole episode, which I could get out in the weeds. Bandersnatch, this guy. I hope you're Gaelic. This is a Gaelic name. I love your name that I cannot pronounce. Bartholomew O'Mac. I can't even pronounce that. Dublin. It sounds to me like this is the most Irish name of all time. So forgive me, but your statement, Bandersnatch, seems like Videodrome, only a video game drome. Do you see any similarities? Absolutely. Again, I don't know what it's all about. It's like Cronenberg's movie Existence, if you haven't seen that. It could be like Videodrome. It looks like there's a lot of Videodrome elements in it. If you guys haven't seen David Cronenberg's early body horror films from the late 70s or 80s, do yourself a favor and watch them. They came from within, or Shivers, as it was known everywhere else in the world. Rabid, The Brood, Scanners, Videodrome, The Dead Zone, then all the way up through The Fly and Crash and Existence. Cronenberg is one of my favorite directors. He's kind of changed focus, because you can't make movies about body horror for the rest of your life. But if you really want to see a really interesting group of films, look at Cronenberg's early features beginning in 1975 with Shivers. All of them are on video, and you can get them. As a matter of fact, I even have sitting, it's so funny I mentioned that now, because here's my Japanese box set of Rabbit and They Came From Within on DVD. I've got all these old DVDs, and I'm like, what am I going to do with all of these things that I have? I guess I should auction them off to raise money for the channel. That's the Japanese disc. I don't know. It's cool. Mozart Lalani asks, have you seen Dark on Netflix? I liked Dark a lot. Dark is a German show. I highly recommend it. Again, it's one of those shows that I was really surprised by it once I started watching it. Like, where is this going? And it's really, really, really interesting. And if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's great. Oh, wait. I didn't really finish the Picard. Let me finish the Picard. Let me answer your Picard question. So what I would like to see out of the Picard series is, I don't just want him to jump on the bridge of a starship and go cavorting around the galaxy. In fact, I don't even care if he ever gets onto a starship. I know it's Star Trek, so, he should be. But what if you took him in an entirely different direction? Like I don't know. What is a man like Jean-Luc Picard, who's saved the galaxy many times over? What happens when you've already done everything great that you are ever going to do? How do you then lead your life in those twilight years? I mean, what do you do at the end of a storied career? One of my favorite books I've ever read is a book by Dan Simmons called Phases of Gravity. And it's about an astronaut, fictional astronaut, who landed on the moon. And he knows it's the greatest thing he's ever going to do. But now he's a father, and he's got a troubled son. And it really is about, how does a man like that, how do you move forward in your life with when your best days, literally, it's like the same kind of story are behind you. It's like being high school is the greatest time in my life. It wasn't the greatest time in my life. You know what the greatest time in my life is? Right now, today, talking to you guys here, whatever the hell else is going to happen tomorrow and the next day. I do not live in the past. The past, I love nostalgia, and I'm like, oh yeah. But to me, everything I've ever loved since I was a little kid, there's just more of it. There's new stuff coming down the pike. I saw Jordan Peele's trailer for Us. That was bonkers. Who doesn't want to see that? And he's doing the new Twilight Zone. Crazy. Lucistema says, I don't even know if I get it right, but love Cronenberg's adaptation of The Dead Zone. Great book adaptation. Not as good as the original book, though. Stephen King's Dead Zone is a fantastic novel. And while I like Cronenberg's adaptation, there's so much more to the story in the book. Kadir Hussein says, I totally agree regarding Star Trek and the Picard series, Rob. It needs someone who understands and loves it and sweaty like Kevin Feige in the MCU. I've often said Star Trek needs its Kevin Feige. I wish that my career had amounted to more after I made Free Enterprise 20 years ago, because I would love to run a Star Trek series, because I would handpick my writing team and I would go get them, and I would have a writer's room full of people that loved Star Trek, and we would make it canonical. And we wouldn't look, you don't have to redesign everything. Everyone's like, well, I don't understand why people say, well, these sets wouldn't show up and they wouldn't look good. And that you update them, but you keep them redolent of the design. You know, you don't throw it all out the window. Star Trek is a fictitious history of the future. It's not real. It's not. Star Trek has no relation to our history except in a very tangential way. That's why there were the eugenics wars, and that's why Khan Noonien and Singh left Earth in 1996. You know, that didn't really happen, but you can still tell it's an alternate future. It's great. And it's a period piece of the future. Vesna says, Fox is currently showing Deep Space Nine, and I'm on the 9th cloud. Nice. That's good. Where were girls like you when I was a kid? I'm so happy when I see Captain Picard again. Absolutely. Captain Picard was in a couple of episodes of Deep Space. Actually, he was in the pilot. Picard was in the pilot of Deep Space Nine. He was in Emissary. I love that, by the way. I love that element. And by the way, if you guys really like Star Trek and you want to hear us talk about Star Trek, please tune in to the Inglorious Treksperts podcast. It's my favorite Star Trek podcast. It's only the second Star Trek podcast I've been involved with. But the first 2 episodes where we count down the top 50 Star Trek episodes of all time, you can go get them right now wherever podcasts are available, wherever you get your podcasts. Inglorious Treksperts, the top 50 Star Trek episodes ever. The final episode of each episode is like 2 hours long. The final episode of the top 10 drops on New Year's Eve. So, but you can listen to the top 40 and it'll be great. So Man Cave Review says, enough Trek prequels. I want to see what happens after Voyager. Yes, I agree. And you can if you read the books. I'm a Star Trek novel fiend. I have been since I was a little kid. I can't break the habit, even though I'd like to. I don't read all the Star Trek books anymore, but I buy them. And if you want to read David Mack's Destiny trilogy. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. That's what they should make the Star Trek series about. Post Nemesis, post Dominion War, all that. That's what they should do. But they don't. I don't understand why they don't do that. Anyway. This is great. Name is pronounced Dubna. Its meaning black-haired girl. Irish women are referred to with reverence, as all women should be. Bartomac is fine. I love that Bartomac. That's easy. Look, I'm a big fan of the Irish lasses myself, especially the red-haired ones. That accent kills me. After all, we all want to solve the riddle of the model. If you've seen the movie Sing Street, and you should. Aaron Johnson said, nods, a TNG movie reboot series would definitely be cool, but put Riker as captain. You could. In the novels, he is captain. He's captain of the Titan. They've even done a series of novels about the Titan where Riker is captain of the Titan. Olenti asks, did you watch or read Altered Carbon? I did. I read the book when it came out like 15 years ago. I liked it. I thought the series was good, but it was kind of bland. And what I find really interesting is Blade Runner came out in 1982, and yet everybody still uses Blade Runner as the touchstone about what the future is going to look like. And Altered Carbon totally did this. And I guess that's okay. But I would like to see other versions of the future. We've been seeing the Blade Runner future now for 35 years, and it hasn't changed much, which is sort of interesting. Starbuck United says hello, Burnettwork. Hope you had a good Christmas. I did. I had a good Christmas, lovely Christmas. I got a reading light for books so I can read in bed, which I wanted. It's a USB rechargeable light. Fantastic. Because I read, just so you know, I read every night. I don't know what, it's usually science fiction, horror novels, or modern, like Bill Clinton's book he wrote with James Patterson. I read that in one sitting. I'm always reading something. Lou says that it was unfocused. Dr. Logan asks, have you ever watched the series Farscape? I loved Farscape. Farscape was produced by the Henson Studios, Jim Henson, Kermit the Frog. Farscape is really cool. I liked it because it was, this combination of people and puppets and the ship designs, and it was wacky. I've met Gigi Edgley. She's lovely. Claudia Black has come to my house. Well, she did when I was married. I love Farscape. It's great, and you can get them now on Blu-ray, but I think they're upscaled versions. They're not true, which is too bad. Well, listen, Mercer Create says, I got the 7th season of TNG on Blu-ray for Xmas. Well, good for you, sir. Listen, I produced all of the documentaries, the new documentaries that are on. I also found things like David Rappaport, The Little Person. Look at the 3rd season episode, The Most Toys. I unearthed TNG footage no one had ever seen ever. The negative had never been used. I got to cut that footage. It's on the disc. 2nd season, you can see me as the on-camera host for the cast reunion, the 25th anniversary Next Generation cast reunion. That was a highlight of my life. And then I did all the interviews. And then watched the 2nd season also has the extended version of The Measure of a Man, the only extended Star Trek episode that even exists. So it's very cool. So anyway, guys, I'm going to sign off. I got to talk about Bandersnatch, Black Mirror. I'm very excited. I hope that you guys watch it, and please come back to this chat because I put all these live chats up on my page, the Burnettwork. Come back and tell me what you thought. Comment, subscribe. You can support me however you can. Patreon. Go back and you watch the episode that I did with Dave Parker, director of The Hills Run Red, last Sunday, and we have a lot of swag that we're having a random drawing for swag, including, by the way, this unused is a brand new Hills Run Red. If you like the Hills Run Red, I produced the Hills Run Red. This is a brand new baseball hat. It's actually 10 years old, so but it's never been worn. It's in cherry condition. See, it still has this. It looks brand new. It's an actual, I have these made for the crew. Sofia, Bulgaria, 2008. So if you want to support my channel, you can PayPal me or support the Burnettwork and Robservations on Patreon. And anyone who does, I'm putting their name into a random drawing to win that hat, some other swag, the Verez Saraband soundtrack for the Hills Run Red, a signed poster, and that kind of stuff. So check it out. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about Bandersnatch and what I thought of it. And I hope you guys, it's really great keeping these chats alive because otherwise the holiday season can be lonely. So it's good to have you here. So thanks for tuning in, and I will talk with you tomorrow. So